1985. I'm the numbers guy. I'm doing the chief estimating work here in the Washington area. And Bob calls me into his office and he says, we're going to go after a job down in North Carolina for an arena, 25,000 seat NBA arena. I said, whoa, Bob, wait, stop. We're going to do what? We're going to go to, we don't know anything about this. We don't know. We've never done it. He said, I worked on Madison Square Garden. I got it. We're going to do this. So sure enough, we go down there and we get this job. It was a long shot, and what it did is, as Bob said, it started a type of building product that we began to specialize in over the years and become very proficient in that.
Keep in mind, we were speaking with a New York accent in North Carolina.
Oh yeah.
So
well,
our odds were dramatically higher than anybody else.
That was, yes, there was a few Yankee go home meetings that we went to. But anyway, but the point here is that Bob was able to do something different and aggressive, and we're going to just get it done. It's almost like when I saw a lot of his military background coming forward here saying, there's the hill, we're going to go take the hill. And sure enough, we did, and it was the first step in a long journey of successful projects. Turner Construction is the largest general contractor construction manager in the country. We have 46 offices around the country, plus an international division. We currently have in backlog, in other words, the work that we have signed up under contract is $19 billion right now. And we're doing about $1 billion of work every month, and we're selling about $1 billion of work every month. So it's a good market, to say the least, and things are projecting out that it's going to be continue for a while. And so the services we provide are general contracting, which we actually hire subcontractors and go and do the work. We also manage the contracts that that the owners have directly as an agent. We do design build, in which the architect works for us. So we do a broad range of services. We have a division that works in insurance. We buy equipment and pass it along to the subcontractor, saving the owner's money. So there's a lot of services that we provide within those. We have 9,000 employees, and we have a lot of different positions that are in those. You can imagine all the things that have to get done to provide all those services and get all that work done. So basically we have two groups. We have the group in the field, that's the superintendent, assistant superintendents. These are the people who are managing directly on site, working out of a trailer on each one of our sites. And then we have what we call our office group, our engineering group. The office group builds the building 6 months on paper before it gets built in the field. So they're figuring out how the pieces fit together, how we're going to buy everything, bring it out there on time, so that if the steel takes 6 months to make, how long does it take to buy the steel, to get it fabricated and to get it out into space. So there's kind of an engineering component that's required for some of those positions, but not for all of them. So if I have a civil engineering background, Bob has a civil engineering background, which is kind of typical, and I guess maybe half of the people who work for us are engineers. The other half are people with 4-year degrees, and it doesn't have to, I'm going to emphasize, it doesn't have to be technical. I mean, my own daughter has a psychology major. I don't know how that ever happened, but she's off in the construction industry in business development. So, so we need people who are who have talents that can get a job done. And I've never been in the military, but I've seen enough movies to know that you talk about mission critical stuff, right? And everybody's on a mission and you have to get it done. We have the same thing. Ours is quite simpler. We have this expression, whatever it takes. So once you define the goal, once you define the end product, when the building has to be done, everybody on the team does whatever it takes. It's that simple. Just as an example, I was project director in a Citrus Bowl renovation in Florida. we're opening in 3 days, and we needed locks for the 60 gates that had to go around there. And there was no lock on the gate, and they said, well, you need something to secure the building. So 5 o'clock at night, 3 days before we're opening, I got the job truck and I went around to Home Depot, Lowe's, and I bought out every chain and lock within 10 miles. There was nothing left. But it had to get done, and it didn't matter who was doing it. I had 48 people that were reporting to me, and I had almost about 800 workers in the job. And I said, it's got to get done, I'm going to go do it. Got the truck, got it done, we opened, everything was worked. So that's an example of whatever it takes for us. So the talents and what we look for in people are people who can understand the mission and work, do whatever it takes to get it done. We need people who are organized. There's a lot of data that we work with. There's computer skills. We do a lot of things in simple Excel and Word, so it doesn't have to be. We do also do BIM modeling, so we build a building in 3 dimension. We have actually the architects who do that, but that's not a requirement. So basic computer skills are essential. We need energy. We need people who can, take something new and understand it and go forward with that. We look for people who also have creativity. Lots of times, there's stuff that's just not there yet, and you have to come up with ideas and put people together. And that's the other thing, is putting people together is probably one of the biggest skills we have. If you're managing, like the position I was in, where I had 48 of my own employees and 800 in the field, you need a little bedside manner. When a subcontractor comes in, it's pounding on your desk saying he needs to get paid, and needs to, and he's not happy because he can't work and do all this stuff. You gotta, figure out what the problem is, calm the person down, get resources, and change things. I'm sure not unlike what goes on in the military, when there's things that aren't going well, right? So the point here is that a lot of the skills that you have developed in the military, I believe, are directly translatable, right? The other thing is thinking on your feet. When you've got the crane set up, ready to start in one place, and it's raining, and the steel truck is late, and nothing's going right. You got to come up with Plan B and Plan C and Plan D to make sure that you stay on track to get everything done. So those are the kinds of talents and kind of people we're looking for that have historically become successful in the industry. As far as Turner goes, we are currently working on, just a little background on what I do for the company, is I'm a vice president and manager of Preconstruction for our sports group. And it's a group of 20 people within the company that specialize in sports and what we call public assembly. So it's anything where a lot of people get together, that's the kind of buildings I work on. For instance, tomorrow I'll be in a meeting in Baltimore for Port Covington, an amphitheater that's going to have 15,000 people, and it's going to be like Wolf Trap in downtown Baltimore. So that's an example of a project that I'm working on. We are currently doing
Tom, don't forget Turner International.
Turner. So
Come on now, Tom.
we are working on 3 projects in Doha in Qatar for the 2020 World Cup, including the main stadium, which is 100,000 seats. So I was over there for 2 weeks a couple of years ago, getting that one started. So I'm the starter. I get things going with the estimate, meeting the client, giving them ideas on how to make the building less expensive and more efficient. So we're working on the LA Rams and Chargers. This is one that's very unusual. It's the latest NFL stadium. And everybody's saying that, you know, the Jerry Jones, Jerry's World, the big stadium down in Texas, this new one will make that look like a high school stadium. So the playing field is 100 feet below grade. And that's because of the airplanes coming over have in the flight path to get to LAX, to get to the airport. They have earthquakes out there, which is very inconvenient for sports stadiums, in that when the earthquake happens, there's an acceleration and a force that comes through the ground. And so if we're 100 feet below ground, we have to isolate the building completely from the ground. So we have to build what we call a seismic moat, which is another wall in the ground, so that when that earthquake acceleration force hit the wall, and the wall moved independent of the stadium. So that was just one premium. We moved 8 million cubic yards of dirt, 220 acre site, and what we did is we took the dirt and we raised the entire site about 3 feet. So we didn't have to truck it off site, so everything was done. Those are examples of this is going to be wild. It has a 1 million square foot roof, and it's going to be done with cables and a clear Teflon cover, and it's going to be amazing. We're about half done with it right now, and it's be opening in 2020. So that's one of the stadiums. The other things we're doing, we just got 2 stadiums. We just finished DC United. In the construction industry, last year, $1.3 trillion was spent in construction. And there are 670,000 employers, 670,000 companies that are in construction. So you can imagine the opportunities that are out there. So we're ready to start there, and it's the Friday before the Saturday game, and the elevator, the scoreboard guy comes in. And the scoreboard in the center of every arena goes up and down for maintenance. So there's 4 cables, and as the cables come down, they work on it. And they were just testing it, and there's what they call limit switches, so that when this thing goes up, it has to know when to stop, and there's a little trigger up there, and it stops the cables. So the technician forgot to set the limits on 2 sides. So the scoreboard is coming up. This is the day before we open in a finished facility, and the limit switch, the cables don't know that they're supposed to stop. So the scoreboard goes up and pulls itself into the roof, collapses and falls. So we have a scoreboard, right?
Weren't they watching? And they could have stopped it.
An hour before, there had been a welcome reception with about 2,000 people on that floor of that arena.
Yeah.
So that was one scary event.
Calls came in. It was pretty scary. So
I think it was a mistake in the estimate.
no, nothing to do with the numbers. The numbers were good, Bob. Don't start that.
Had
So
nothing to do with the field operation.
these are the field guys, screw up. So here's this rubble in the middle of the floor, and so the plan A, plan B, plan C was to first figure out if there's any structural damage to the roof, and that came back, we were okay. So then he said, what are we going to do? So they brought tractor trailers in, got a small crane, lifted everything up onto there, left it, took it out of the building. Then they went to the old Charlotte Coliseum and took the portable floor, brought it over, set it up, and then everybody opened the next day. So it was no scoreboard, but it could have been worse. See, in this industry, there's a lot of people. I mean, we're one component. The other 2 components are the ownership group, the people who have the money and the land and the vision to create the project. Then the architect comes in and says, well, this is the design that you want, and then we come in and then we build it. So we're really at the end of this progression of events that ultimately results in a finished product. And so a lot of what we get at the end of the project process is the result of how well we're working in the front end. For instance, if the ownership group here is not making decisions, not giving information to the architect's plans may not be as coordinated and as complete as they want, so that when it comes to us, we're down the road here trying to fit everything together in the field. So on DC United, we had challenges with zoning, and there were delays in the decision-making. And at the last minute, they said, well, we need retail. You can make some money if you put stores in the facility. And it was on the most complicated side of the building, and we were ready to get started. So we had to redesign and work with the architect to get all that stuff started. The other thing that was a challenge there was the hazardous material in the ground. It was a dump site for World War I, and there was all sorts of, there was arsenic and cadmium and all sorts of things in the soil, so that every time we dug, we had to take that soil and send it to remediation sites down in Alabama, where they actually cook it and then, get rid of the stuff. So that every time we turned around, in fact, the day we were supposed to start structural steel, get everything all set up, right where the crane had to start, we found hazardous material. It was the last place that they checked, and as they were digging, the probe indicated that there was nothing there. They came in there, they started digging a footing, and sure enough, it was hot, and so we had to dig a 12-foot hole, wait another week to come back, backfill, and then put the crane there and start the sequence of steel. So there's a number of things that have to happen. So going back to what I was saying earlier, you got to think on your feet, you got to have a lot of energy, you have to be creative, mission, you have to be focused on where you're going.